Hello all, welcome to Universal Group of Institutions, Bengaluru. Welcome to our very special and a unique series on reinterpretation of NCERTs. In my previous video, we have discussed about the different ways in which we can estimate the poverty. That one happens to be the income method, expenditure method, and another one which happens to be the most comprehensive among the three, that happens to be the multidimensional poverty index. Now, in this particular today's session, we are going to discuss the four important themes that are present in the textbook as well. The one happens to be the interstate disparities, that is the how the poverty rates fare among the different states. The second one happens to be the poverty among the different vulnerable groups, which is a social group that is more vulnerable to poverty. Third happens to be the global poverty scenario, and fourth happens to be the sustainable development goals and the poverty. Now, looking at the first theme, that happens to be the interstate disparity. As I said very clearly in my previous video as well, the prior to the establishment of the Niti Aayog, that is the National Institution for Transforming India, we had an institution called as the Planning Commission. So during the time of the Planning Commission, it was the duty of the Planning Commission to estimate the poverty. So currently, Planning Commission has been disbanded. It has been replaced by the Niti Aayog. Niti Aayog uses something called as the multidimensional poverty index to estimate the poverty. So based upon the report of the Niti Aayog itself, the very latest Niti Aayog report, that state-wise head count ratio, again I have said very clearly, what is a head count ratio? The percentage of population living below poverty line. Let's say there is a state which has a population of 100. Of these 100 people, if 26 people are living below poverty line, then the head count ratio becomes 26 percentage. So based upon the those 12 parameters of the multidimensional poverty index, Niti Aayog brings up this report. As you can see, the Bihar is a state with largest percentage of population living below poverty. That means 33.76 percentage of Bihar is living below poverty. This particular report gives you the data of the 3 years, 5, 6, 15, 16 and the 1921. So as of 1921, which is the one that Bihar, second one Jharkhand, again the erstwhile which used to be the part of undivided Bihar, 28.81%. One of the mineral rich state is having a more number of people below poverty line, that is multidimensional. Surprisingly, the northeastern state, that is the Meghalaya, is the top 3 with 27.79, followed by UP, MP, Assam, Chhattisgarh, Orissa. Okay, then if you look at among the 5 southern state, it is the Karnataka, where 7.58% of its population is multidimensionally poor. Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Tamil Nadu is the Kerala. And regarding the Kerala, we know very recently the state itself has declared free of extreme poverty. That is the international poverty line, which is declared by the World Bank, which clearly updated the right now the international poverty line to be $3. Of a family living below the $3 will be classified as the multidimensionally poor. So you can see the among the the lowest, that happens to be the Union Territories itself, Puducherry, right from the bottom. That is the best thing. That is the Lakshadweep, and that is Andaman Nicobar Islands, Delhi. So this is the interstate disparity that we need to 30 years ago, 40 years ago, there used to be an acronym called as the BMARU. There is the B, this, look at the word BMARU, that is something being being described as a Sikh. That is the Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan and the Uttar Pradesh were being described as the poor states. But right now the things have changed. Even though substantial amount of population is still being living below poverty line, these states will decide the economic growth of the country. These states will be the engines of economic growth in India. So moving further, that is the second theme, that happens to be the vulnerable groups. So can you see here from the textbook itself, there has been clearly given, that is the scheduled tribe, among whom the 43% of population is living below poverty line. Scheduled caste, that happens to be the 29%. Then the average Indian poverty ratio is 22. Casual labor form in a rural and urban happens to be the 34. Remember, between the scheduled caste and the scheduled tribe, which is the one where the more number of people are vulnerable to poverty, that happens to be the scheduled tribe. Now moving to the third and a very important theme, that is the global poverty scenario. Again, we need to rely on the data that is published by the either by the World Bank or the UNDP. I mean, UNDP happens to be recently itself has released a report how climate is associated with the poverty, how the climate risks makes the population more vulnerable to the poverty. According to this same report, what it says is nearly two-thirds of all poor people, remember very clearly, very very important, these kind of statement from the preliminary examination point of view, nearly two-thirds of all poor people, that is about 740 million, live in the middle income countries. Remember very clearly, it's a World Bank which classifies countries into the low income group, middle income group, and the high income group. Of that, of the poor, 64.5% of the population are happens to be living between the middle income group. That too, of that, way to more number of people that live, that happens to be the lower middle income group, of which India is also one of the part. That is, India belongs to the middle income group, that too lower middle income group. About 83.2%, remember, about 83.2% of the poor people are living in only two regions, that happens to be the sub-Saharan Africa, and another one happens to be our own region, that is the South Asia. So remember very very clearly, so way to more number of people are living, that happens to be the middle income group, that too of middle income group, lower middle income group. In terms of the regions, that happens to be the sub-Sahara, another one happens to be the South Asia. If you look at the countries, the where more number of people are, happens to be, the way to more number of, can you see here very clearly, some 518 million people, that is 51 crore people, that live in a just 6 middle income group, that happens to be Bangladesh, China, India, Pakistan, the Republic of Tanzania, as well as the Nigeria. So two happens to be the African countries, that is the Nigeria and United Republic of Tanzania. If you look at it the region wise, can you see very clearly the sub-Saharan Africa with a 565, which I've already discussed. South Asia happens to be the second one. East Asia and the Pacific, like countries like Vietnam, Philippines, the Arab states, even including the Northern Africa, the United Arab Emirates, Yemen, Oman, that happens to be the Latin America and the Caribbean with the 33. Then another one, that is the the Europe and the Central Asia. So very very important from the examinations perspective. It is way to more number of people that happens to be poor living, that happens to be the sub-Saharan Africa. Then happen the region, the south of the Sahara Desert, that happens to be the sub-Saharan Africa. The countries like Algeria, Libya, Tunisia, they're all part of being for the part of Arab states. Remember very clearly from the examinations perspective. Now moving to the the third theme that is being discussed here in the textbook, that happens to be the poverty and the sustainable goals. So very clearly you need to remember this. The right now we have a set of goals which are operationally called as the sustainable development goals, which were adopted in 2015, which are operational till 2030. There are 17 goals and 169 targets that needs to be achieved as of those sustainable development goals. If you look at the history of these sustainable development goals, how they evolved over a period of a time, it all dates back to the the Brundtland report, Brundtland Commission. That is the Gro Harlem Brundtland, who happens to be the former Norwegian Prime Minister. She tables a report called as Our Common Future. Then the 1992 Rio Summit happens. Out of that Rio Summit, discussion emerges about adopting a set of goals, which ultimately take the shape of a set of goals called as the Millennium Development Goals, which were adopted in the UN Millennium Summit of 2000, which held in the New York. As of 2000, as of 2000, that was one of the largest gathering of all the world leaders. Okay, as a part of that, the one declaration that they adopted, that happens to be the Millennium Development Goals. Can you see here very clearly on screen? There were 8 goals that they adopted at that time. The one goal that was part of that happens to be the goal number 1, that the eradicate extreme poverty and hunger. Can you see some of the goals which are very important again from the examinations perspective? So target 1A, they were supposed to reduce the number of poor by half. That happens to be the held between 1990 and 2015. The proportion of people whose income is less than $1.25 a day, that at that time the international poverty line was at the $1.25. Later it was revised to $2.15. Right now the international poverty line is standing at the $3. So then again the target one, we achieve full and productive employment and decent work for all, including women and the young people. I mean, reduce again between 1990 and to 2015 the proportion of people who suffer for hunger. So these were the three goals that were part of Millennium Development Goals. Then, as I said very clearly, the Sustainable Development Goals, which were adopted in 2015, which needs to be achieved by 2030. Can you see these 17 Sustainable Development Goals? No poverty. Goal number 4 called as quality education, affordable and clean energy called as goal number 7, reduced inequality goal number 10, climate action, life on a land 15, 16, 17 that happens to be partnership for the goals of this. I mean, the one we are interested in today happens to be the no poverty of this also has a specific set of targets. Can you see here very clearly? By 2030, reduce at least by half the proportion of men and women, children of all ages living in poverty in all its dimension according to the national definition. That means the extreme poverty needs to be reduced, implement nationally appropriate social protection system, like be it pension, be it food security, be it try to address all the the dimensions of the poverty. By 2030, build a resilience of the poor and those in a vulnerable situation, because right now we see how the climate change has posed a new challenge for the the poverty eradication. And so this is about the Sustainable Development Goal number 1, which only talks about eliminating the poverty. That is goal number 1, no poverty. Earlier poverty and hunger were part of the same goal. Right now what we see, poverty is a goal number 1, hunger happens to be the goal number 2. So that's it in this particular video session, where we have clearly understood the interstate disparity. Then happens to be the among the different vulnerable groups, the poverty, that is SCs, STs. Theme number 3 happens to be the global poverty scenarios. Where do more number of people, poor people are living? That happens to be Sub-Saharan Africa, Algeria, Libya, Tunisia. They're all part of the Arab world. Then we looked at the Sustainable Development Goals and the poverty. Do like, do share. Thank you for watching. If you have any concern, do let us know in the comment section. Thank you.